everyone, this is Ben Dunn, your AP Sensei, founder of ANTARCTIC Press, creators of such comics as Ninja High School, Mighty Tiny, Marvel Mangaverse, Warrior Nun, Tomorrow Girl, and a host of many others. So, I was listening recently to a podcast, and they were talking about IDW Comic Books Company. IDW is the publishing firm similar to ours. We do comics, they do comics, we do comics. We're just all one big happy family, as they say, one big happy Starfleet, as they would say. But anyways, the gist of it is that the CEO or owner, or I don't know, the person who runs IDW, are making the switch to, or not making the switch, focusing more on company-owned properties. And the host was talking about whether or not that will actually be a strategy that will be beneficial to IDW. And I just wondering if I thought to myself, well, that's interesting, because IDW is a comic book publisher that is known for a lot of doing license properties and also doing creator-owned properties. Basically, what ANTARCTIC Press is doing. ANTARCTIC Press has been doing it for over 40 years, and to me, this is nothing new. I've always believed that for a small publishing company like ours, we have to have what I call a mix of different strategies that will help ensure the viability and survival of the company. When you first start out, you start off with your own stuff. I'm lucky because not lucky, I guess. I am fortunate that I can write and draw my own material. I don't know what the situation is at IDW. I'm pretty sure the CEO of the company doesn't write and draw his own material. I'm sure he hires people to do it. See, this is the one big advantage that independent publishers have. That a lot of other publishers may not have. If you're an independent publisher wanting to start one, you have to give some thought as to what you're trying to accomplish. There have been successful independent publishers in the past who have gone to great fortune and fame, and it just depends on what you want to do. If you're a creator and just want to just create your own, focus on your own thing, it's fine, no problem. If you can make a living doing that, even better. But if you're a publishing company, you're going to have to decide what your long-term strategy is going to be. When ANTARCTIC Press first started, it had one book, magazine. We could have done a lot of other kind of comics, but I focused on doing an anthology that was manga inspired, because at the time it was a very niche, part of the comic book industry, and there wasn't a lot of manga available at the time. In fact, I would almost say it was almost zero manga available at the time. So I saw, and I knew that there were people out there who wanted to read manga or wanted to see something like that. So I took it upon myself and took a chance that people would gravitate toward a anthology that was manga based, and in hopes that those people who weren't being served will now have an alternative. It wasn't a big market, but sometimes you focus on a small niche market, it can get you a lot of success. Sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a little pond than a little fish in a big pond, and that should be the thing that will help, in terms of the long-term viability of a comic book company. Now, AP has used the strategy of the more or less 33% rule. I don't know if you know what the 33% rule is, but if you're going to invest in something, it's wise to do what is called a 33% rule. Now, you do 33% investments in high risk, high return. And you invest 33 of low risk, but low return. And then you have the middle part, which is moderate risk, moderate return, which is steady. So, if you don't put all your eggs in one basket, then if something goes wrong in one part, you won't, have a total disaster on your hands. And for us, AP has always been a mix of different, different types of strategies. In the beginning, it was all creator owned, me being the creator, but I also convinced my friends and people I knew to also contribute, and I started with the anthology because I liked format anthology, and I didn't put all my eggs in one basket, which is one title. If that title were to fail, then then we would be stuck. But with an anthology, you can have a mix of titles, and see which one, pans out. Now we also did licensed products. We also did. We've done licensing over the years. Did Roll Tech. We've done Fifth Force. We've done Alley Oop. All sorts of licensing product. But we never made it a focus of our business model. We just did it on occasion and when the opportunity presented itself. And we decided that was something that if it worked, great. If not, it was not a big deal, because the thing about licensing is that you never own the product that you're putting out. You put all this time and effort in the hopes that the license product will sell on its own through familiarity, and recognition. And then we did the creator-owned products, which we are people who would submit stuff in, and we would publish it, and they would own the rights to that material, but we would never own the rights, in hopes that maybe the creator will break out and create a new comic book that people will love, and we can. But the important thing was to put out product. That was the big thing, is that we had to put out a steady stream of comic books, because that's our business, is to put out comic books. And if we don't put out comic books, then we don't get money for it. If we don't get money for it, we're going to go out of business. Simple as that. It's just we are a company that has to put out product. And if you don't have something on the shelves, then people forget that you even exist. They'll see your book for 1 week, and then if it's not there, they'll just forget about it the next week. So you have to have a constant and steady flow of material. So we found that strategy works very well for us, because we like to be able to, diversify, our product line, so that we give people an option, when they go to the comic book store. Of course, that dynamic is changing nowadays, because of the way things are going. Comic book stores, while still important to our business strategy, is becoming more or less important to the overall strategy. Now, I'm not saying that comic book stores are not important. They are very important. We love our retailers, and we want to support them 100%. But at the same time, we also know that they are becoming under increasing competition from other areas like digital, and direct market and direct to consumer, strategies. So, my advice to people who are thinking of starting their own comic book company: think about the long term of what you want and trying to do. It's difficult, and it's very competitive. Comic books. The thing about comic books is that it's not a large market, but yet people still want to get into it, for whatever reason, be it personal. Because the thing about comic books is the barrier to entry is very low. You don't need a lot of bells and whistles. You just need somebody with an idea, being able to draw it and write it, and get it out to the public, in the hopes that it will become, the next big thing. You have to realize every single IP on this planet started off with just an idea, and no one could have predicted that this IP was going to be a huge success. It's a crapshoot. It's a gamble. You don't know, but you're putting your time and effort into it in the hopes that it will pay off. And that's but that's just life in general. Anything you try to do, is going to be a gamble. The choices you make is going to have consequences. The actions you take are going to have consequences. It's just the reality. The thing is that technology is changing. The barriers are becoming more and more less obtrusive to people who are creative, who want to get into whatever field they decide to want to get into. And that's just the way things are. I mean, changes are coming. It's just you have to learn to adapt. That's the one thing I can say is that you have to adapt. You have to accept the reality of the situation. You can deny it all you want, you can protest all you want, you can get angry about it, but that doesn't really do you much good, really. It really doesn't. What benefit does it give you by lashing out or being angry about something that is a reality? The thing is take advantage of it. Learn how to change and see where it takes you. And that's you just have to learn to either accept reality or you can deny it. And denying it is something that I think is detrimental overall. Or you just don't let it bother you. Just move on. So anyway, just wanted to give you my thoughts on to give you some little advice on if you're thinking of starting a comic book company, what I think would be a good strategy in the long term. I'm not saying that this strategy you should take, but it seems to have worked for us for the last 40 years. And if, I'll tell you what, it hasn't made us rich, but it has kept us on the playing board, so to speak. So anyway, I do have a Kickstarter campaign. I'm trying to colorize the Black and White Ninja High School series. It's now on Kickstarter. Link will be below. I hope you'll be a backer and support it. And until next time, this has been, just a quick reminder, I'm going to attempt my first live stream Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to jump on board and participate, I would love to have you. We'll be talking about comics, the pop culture, the business of comics, and just, shooting the breeze in general. And you can talk directly to me and with my co-host, Steve Ross. And until next time, this has been Dunn signing off.